Hello and welcome to today's 5-minute history video. Today we're going to be going over and exploring the roots of one of the most influential music genres of all time. That's right, today we're going to be going and doing a deep dive into the debate of the Ramones versus the Sex Pistols. Also, please ignore the stain on my shirt. It's from my dog Lemmy. He gets these little spit bubbles on the side of his mouth and then he, tries to hug me. Today we're going to dive into the debate of who created punk and look at two of the biggest feuds in punk history.
For the Ramones, you'd be nowhere. You'd be doing fish and chips somewhere.
Listen, I love the Ramones.
Yeah, you love the Ramones.
But I love
okay.
status quo more.
Good for you. I believe you.
I have a question over
I
here.
believe you.
That we could change our lives by music, meaning what we said, attack the political systems. This daft
How come you, wait.
is in the drugs.
Hey, you talk the talk, but you didn't do the walk.
All right.
Just like the MC5.
Hello! Johnny Rotten never did the walk.
He just talked. He didn't do the walk. He wasn't out on the street protesting like
You
the
tattooed
MC5.
twat. Let me jump.
That's
You look
it,
like
right?
heavy metal.
Whatever the okay?
That's right. The Ramones versus the Sex Pistols. Feel free to gently caress the like button with your little clicky apparatus and whisper sweet nothings into the ear of the subscribe button. Thank you. Punk rock emerged in the mid-1970s and quickly gained a reputation for its fast, energetic, and rebellious style. The Ramones and the Sex Pistols were both at the forefront of it and were widely considered to be two of the first and most influential bands in the birth of punk rock. The Ramones are often credited with creating punk. Their self-titled debut album, The Ramones, released in 1976 and is seen as a landmark in the genre, considered to be one of the most important punk rock albums of all time. But some argue that the Sex Pistols were the true creators of punk. Their attitude, lyrics, and stage presence set the tone for what punk would become, and they are seen as the definitive punk band by many. The Sex Pistols album, Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, released just 9 months after the Ramones' debut album, and not only was it closer to what we would call punk by today's standards, it was also dripping with toxic punk energy, bad attitudes, anger, melancholy, and hatred of the status quo, which isn't quite true for the Ramones' debut album. When the Ramones released the album Ramones, R-A-M-O-N-E-S, R-A-M-O-N-E-S, Ramones, they were initially intending to be another pop rock band, but because, according to Joey, it took the band longer to purchase their instruments than it did for them to learn how to play, longer for them to purchase the instruments than it did for them to learn how to play them. Why do I keep spitting when I say that? They, in essence, accidentally created the punk sound unintentionally. So really that begs the question, if the Ramones did it on accident, but the Sex Pistols did it intentionally, who should get the credit?
If I'm called a punk, then I'm a true punk, and I will stand by everything I said. From the first day I began to write a song, I took on all the institutions that need to be put toward Queen, monarchy, governments, attack 'em. Do not think the Sex Pistols is in any way, shape or form related to a band like the Ramones. Hello, God Save the Queen almost put me in jail for the rest of my life. Right? Anarchy in the UK, most definitely. I was challenging a political system there, right? I was discussed openly in the Houses of Parliament, right, in England, under the Traitors Act. There's a little bit of difference between that and Blondie. Ooh, heart of glass. You know, you got to get it right. And don't think the Sex Pistols belong to an imitation of New York.
Both the Ramones and the Sex Pistols had a huge impact on punk rock and its development. The Ramones' simple, straightforward style influenced countless punk bands, while the Sex Pistols' confrontational attitude and rebellious spirit inspired a new generation of punk rockers. Still to this day, people are obsessed with the Sex Pistols, mostly Sid Vicious and Johnny. The Ramones and the Sex Pistols are two equal sides of punk rock. The Ramones brought the energy and the music, while the Sex Pistols brought the attitude and rebellion. Punk rock wouldn't be what it is today without both the Ramones and the Sex Pistols. They both made an indelible mark on the genre and continue to inspire new generations of punk rockers to this day. But a lot of the debate over the Sex Pistols versus Ramones actually started way back in the 70s with the two bands themselves, primarily their bass guitarists, Sid and Dee Dee. Dee Dee Ramone, bassist and songwriter for the Ramones, had a well-documented dislike for Sid Vicious, the bassist for the Sex Pistols. There are actually a few reasons why Dee Dee didn't like Sid. Firstly, Dee Dee was known to be a stickler for music ability and technical proficiency, and he didn't feel that Sid was a talented bass player. He once famously said that Sid couldn't play bass to save his life. I don't know why I did a British accent, he's not British. And let's be honest, even Johnny Rotten didn't speak highly of Sid's ability to play, which is one of the main reasons the band broke up so quickly. Secondly, Dee Dee didn't appreciate Sid's antics on stage, which he felt were too confrontational and over the top. He felt that Sid was more focused on creating a spectacle than on actually playing music. And finally, Dee Dee was known to be jealous of the attention that Sid received as the bassist of the Sex Pistols, who were widely regarded as the quintessential punk band. Dee Dee felt that the Ramones were just as influential and important to the punk movement, and he didn't understand why they didn't receive the same level of recognition as the Sex Pistols. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the same reason today. It's less about talent and stuff like that than it is about making a spectacle. Look at YouTube and TikTok and all these other places as an example. There are a lot of talented people that go completely under the radar and don't get any recognition, while the biggest, loudest, most obnoxious ones rise to the top. And Sid Vicious was nothing if he was not obnoxious. I'm not trying to be a dick. I love the Sex Pistols, but Sid Vicious was kind of an obnoxious douche. In the end, I don't think either the Ramones nor the Sex Pistols can take credit for creating punk. No, instead we have to look further back to Iggy Pop and the Stooges. They released their first album simply titled The Stooges in the summer of 1969. Their distorted guitars and shrinking vocals are closer to the post-punk of the 90s than anyone else at the time. And Iggy Pop was notorious for having insane stage antics, much like the late Gigi Allen from 20 to 30 years later. So did the Ramones or the Sex Pistols create punk, or was it Iggy Pop and the Stooges? Why don't you let me know in the comments who you think created punk? Was it the Ramones or was it the Sex Pistols? Or do we go back to Iggy Pop? I personally think that they all had an equal hand in it, that without one there couldn't have been the other. To have a scene, you need more than one band. If there was only one metal band, metal would have ceased to exist a long time ago. If there was only one rap wouldn't be nearly as popular as it is today. So without all of the bands that came and paved the way and laid the stones as we see today, I don't think any of it would exist in the extent that it did. So I don't think we need to fight over was it the Ramones, was it the Sex Pistols, was it the Stooges? They all served their time. An army isn't an army with just one person. With just the general, you don't have an army. So you need everybody in the army to work together and create a beautiful, burgeoning, rebellious music scene that we need to bring back. I'm getting sick of the music today. We need to bring punk back. Come on, guys. Also, let me know what you want to see on the next 5-minute history video. I'm Young Death, signing off.